Prime Minister, believe it or not, has suffered a 45-point drop in approval ratings since July.
It's emerged not only that he took huge sums of money from Lord Wahid Ali, a Labour peer and donor, in total some more than £70,000.
What is the right-wing media trying to do today? Coming up with some nice slogans, free gear Keir or two-tier Keir. It's hilarious, right?
According to The Observer, Keir Starmer has suffered a huge 45-point drop in a poll approval rating since July 2024, making him less popular than Rishi Sunak during his reign as Prime Minister. Only 24% of voters approve of the job Starmer is doing, whereas 50% of voters polled disapproved of his leadership, with a third of those who voted for Labour believing that the first 2 months of Starmer's leadership had not been successful. This decrease in popularity comes after Starmer declared gifts and hospitality that he has received since December 2019 that total over £100,000. These gifts that came from Labour donor Wahid Ali and included a personal shopper, clothes and alterations for Starmer's wife have led to extensive media scrutiny and calls of hypocrisy in the face of Labour's recent cuts to the winter fuel payments for all but the poorest pensioners. In relation to these gifts, while interviewing the right-wing journalist Isabel Oakeshott, the Talk TV presenter Kevin O'Sullivan stated that Starmer's decision will infuriate people all over the country.
If Keir Starmer has not broken any rules, for God's sake, for Christ's sake, it is time the rules were changed.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter whether the rules were or weren't broken in this case. He's in a great deal of political trouble over it.
Oakeshott went on to say that Starmer's decision to accept the gifts fueled an impression among voters that politicians are all at it. In relation to the gifts, the Conservative British radio presenter Julia Hartley-Brewer stated that it seems like petty stuff, except of course it's not to people who are struggling to pay their bills. Brewer then talked about Labour's recent cuts to the winter fuel payments for pensioners.
As of yesterday, you don't get your £300 a year winter fuel allowance, even though you may be on frantically low wages, and indeed living on far less money than Keir Starmer took in payments just for his clothes and his glasses ahead of the election.
However, in contrast to these opinions, the LBC presenter James O'Brien pointed out that Starmer correctly declared the gifts and hospitality, going on to say that the right-wing media were purposely blowing Starmer's actions out of proportion.
The right-wing media is currently queuing up to attack Keir Starmer for publicly declaring correctly gifts and hospitality received that had he been Prime Minister he would not have been required to declare.
O'Brien went on to compare Starmer to Boris Johnson.
This is a conversation in many ways about the media. This is a conversation about the contempt in which many right-wing members of the media hold you, because they continue to hold a torch for Boris Johnson, whose offences were absolutely of a different species.
O'Brien also stated that Starmer hadn't committed any offences. However, in his words, Johnson ran away from the House of Commons after being found by a jury of his peers to have lied to the House of Commons. O'Brien then talked about members of the right-wing media who, when talking about the gifts Starmer received, failed to mention that Boris Johnson spent £112,000 on his private residence that was partly funded by a donation made by member of the House of Lords David Brownlow.
People who are still silent about that, or indeed the people that pay him £500,000 a year to write a column for the Daily Mail, are pretending that Keir Starmer has done something heinous, has done something wrong.